Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining in. I hope that this is going to be an hour of information that's really going to change your thinking around food and thinking about your energy levels. So thanks for being here. I do appreciate you guys jumping on, and I hope that if you've got any other follow-up questions after this, that you'll actually send me an email or send me a text or something and reach out to me, because my intention with sharing this information is that you could actually do something with it. I don't want this to just be another piece of information that you put on in the memory bank and actually don't take action. So just going to share my screen with you guys, and then hopefully that is working great. So why do we have no energy? So this is all about mitochondrial function. This is all about adrenals, and this is all about energy in and energy out. And so when I talk about energy, I'm talking about the ability for you to get through your day without too much of this. Okay. We are in the Western world, about 90% of us start our day with a shot of caffeine right into the vein, or a green smoothie, something like that, some kind of energy booster. And why is that? Because we don't listen to our natural rhythms. We don't balance out what it is and truly know what our body needs. And the final piece of it is that even if we do know what our body needs, a lot of the time we're actually not doing it. So this webinar is all about how to get the most out of your energy in a 24-hour period, and what are the building blocks that are really required so that you can be at optimum. Because if you don't have energy, it's your body telling you it needs some attention. Okay, there's something else going on. So I'm going to talk about causes, but I'm also going to be talking about solutions specifically for fatigue. So fatigue is a symptom. It's not a woman complaining. We've become so complacent. And how are you? Oh, I'm really busy. Oh, I'm really tired. Or, oh, I'm just run down. These things come out of our mouth and we don't even realize what it is that we're actually speaking into our life. So fatigue is real. Oftentimes it creeps up on us. And if you're anything like me, I'm heading towards the business end of almost being 40. And as a result of that, my body is starting to tell me some stuff, right? I'm getting symptoms and signs that I haven't had up until this point, and it's accumulative. Unfortunately, we have to take some stock. We have to do some inventory at some point and say, okay, what's not working? What is my body actually telling me? So the first part is the amount of energy it takes for you to get through the day. Your body has to prioritize. So the number one thing it's going to do is it's going to keep your brain working, and it's going to keep you upright. So it's not really that interested in digesting food. It's really not that interested in being clear and calm and feeling like you're on top of things, because all of the energy from the mitochondria, which is the body's, in every single cell there's a mitochondria, which is ultimately manufacturing the energy for you to be upright. So this process is doing the absolute essentials, and a lot of time the essentials are not mental clarity. The essentials are not healthy bowel movements. The essentials are not remembering everything on your shopping list. And this is why people say to me, I'm really tired, but I'm also losing my memory. I'm really tired, but I have really sore feet. I'm really tired, but my digestion's a mess. And what happens is that these are the causes that I'm going to get into now, which is this toxicity. Toxicity is the cause. And so as another byproduct is that your body's so busy keeping you upright, it's not interested in doing detox at all. So the chemicals that are in our environment, the chemicals that are in our water, chemicals that are in our food, all the pesticides like glyphosate and endocrine inhibitors. And if you haven't heard this before, I have another webinar on my YouTube channel and in my community on Facebook and on MeWe. That is all about detox pathways and the specifics of these chemicals and pesticides and why fluoride is not good for you. So if you're wanting that information, I've got a far more detailed webinar. I'm just going to talk about it in philosophy here today, in that we're introducing these things into our body constantly because of our environment. And so if we are low on energy and we are fatigued, we are not doing any cleanup. We're not mopping up any of this stuff. So we keep bringing in. However, at the same time, when we're not mopping it up, we're not detoxing it out, it's not being processed through the skin, the liver, and the bowel, it's floating around. So we become toxic. So when you think about brain fog, when you think about having poor memory, when you think about struggling to get through without a nap in the afternoon, this is because your biochemical environment is toxic. Okay. And so not only we're not doing the cleanup, but we're also having to contend with that at the same time as to trying to stay upright, trying to get through the day, trying to use our brain and have cognitive function. And so these things, we become toxic. Okay. So low energy equals toxicity. Basics. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to activate these detox pathways. Okay. Because a lot of the time, if they're inactive, that's why this biochemical environment has already tipped the balance. We are in adrenal overload. Now, what do I mean by that? The adrenal system is a really important part of the endocrine system, part of the hormonal system, particularly for women, particularly for women who are going, or young girls who are going through puberty. Now, what happens is that we start running on adrenal overload or nervous energy if we don't have organic energy. So I'm going to talk about how we get organic food for fuel energy and that kind of exchange, which is the healthy energy we want to burn. The adrenal overload is the unhealthy energy that we want to burn, which is nervous stability, nervous excitement. If you have ever been in a position of anguish or anticipatory anxiety, or perhaps you're a little nervous, you know that that is then the adrenals being in overload, and it gives you a bit of a pump of adrenaline, like that fight and flight response, a bit like before you go on stage or before you stand up in class and give a presentation. You get this rush of adrenaline that comes from this adrenal overload. So a lot of us have been living in this place of adrenal overload for a long time before we start to not being able to manufacture it for ourselves anymore. And so what happens is that the body just conks out, the adrenals collapse, and we go, I'm sorry, I just can't keep doing that. So then what do we reach for? We reach for more of this. We reach for more espresso. We reach for more of the quick fix, even the ginsengs and the adrenal tonics, and more magnesium, more B12, more B vitamins, which are not always a bad thing, but ultimately you're needing it and you're grabbing it as an extra, and the extra is required because you can't get through the day. So it comes down to your body's not working the way it needs to. It's not getting those foundations, those building blocks. So you're leaning into these other things as these quick fix solutions. So it's like putting a Band-Aid on. Now, if we live like that long enough, the body finally starts to collapse, and it really can't handle much more. And as a result of that, that's when we see that we really start to crash, when we start getting chronic inflammation, we get diagnoses, the thyroid starts to blow out, and things really start to become unstuck as a result of living in this environment, this fake, quick fix Band-Aid environment for too long. The other thing that's noteworthy here in terms of your body not being able to have enough energy to get through the day is there are a lot of trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder, and drug layers that also create a lot of toxicity in the body. And it can be natural biochemical toxicity and that there's just too much adrenaline. Or it can be that there are artificial pharmaceutical drugs that are creating additional load for the liver and the kidney and the spleen to actually process. And so therefore it slows down the processing time, and it creates more of a toxic environment. So whenever you think, I can't get through the day, I don't have enough energy, you've got to say, well, I'm toxic. So what toxicity do I have going on for me? Now, normally, around this time of night, so this is 6 o'clock in Denver, I have reached for something to get me through the last shift of my patients, which is about a 4 or 5 hour load. And I will reach for the natural sugars. I will reach for food as medicine, but I will also a lot of time reach for a second espresso. And so I'm aware that I'm doing this because I have to get through the day. So it's not to say that these things are bad, and it's not to say that we don't do these things, but we have to be really aware of what it is that we are doing and create the balance on the other end. So I do that when I work, but I don't do that on my days off. And I have a limit on how many times I will allow myself to reach for that caffeine. It's nothing to do with coffee and the taste of coffee. It's also, you can interchange that with a green smoothie or some chlorophyll tablets, but it's actually about how many times you're needing to do that and being mindful and then doing the correction, because these things are not bad or good. It's more about you've got to play the long game, because you don't want to burn out your adrenals. You don't want your endocrine system to collapse. That in turn impacts your ability to absorb and digest food, so gut goes out. And then the next one that we really see is the immunosuppressant illnesses, the autoimmune diseases as a result of chronic inflammation, because the immune system catapults and it's gone, right? And we've got to go and work out where it went to, because it's just under too much load. So these things all create toxicity in the biochemical environment, and some or all may be relevant to your low energy levels. I want to then talk about the progression of disease with this, because sometimes we are legitimately tired, okay? And it's not that we have low energy or that our body is struggling. It's just that we have a lot on our plate. So I think of teenagers and college students who are under pressure in exams. I think of times of deadlines for people in particular industries. There are times in our life where we do experience more fatigue. Having a newborn baby, breastfeeding on demand. These things will ask more of your body, so they're not always unhealthy. It's about the awareness of how long that goes on for, and then the corrections that you're going to do in your diet and your lifestyle to make sure that you don't end up with a situational exhaustion or low energy turning into a pathological low energy because of the progression of disease. So let's go into this. This is the progression of disease according to homeopathic medicine. So you'll see that on the far left, I have birth, and then death is on the right-hand side. So my job whenever I get a new patient is all my patients do a new patient intake form for me, and then I do a miasmatic analysis based on the signs and symptoms and pathology that they're coming to me for. And I plot based on rubrics and symptoms where they are with the miasms that are active and inactive. So there are 4 different miasms that make up the progression of diseases. And so a disease may start in psora, but an individual will experience chronic debilitating illness at around tubercular, and then they may die from that disease because that disease continues to progress and falls into syphilitic. Similarly, people come to me when they're very, very active in syphilitic, and they don't understand why they've been given this diagnosis. And I say this to my patients all the time. You don't wake up one day with bowel cancer. You don't wake up one day with adrenal fatigue, okay? You've had 3 children in a matter of, 7 years. You've breastfed, you've on demand, you've co-slept, you've not been in a position where you've been eating really healthy food. It's been all about the kids. It's been all about your spouse. It's been all about trying to keep the lights on in the house. And before you know it, just the progression and the stage of life that you're in, and the lack of support structure or the lack of self-care that you've been able to do for yourself, by the way, not always by choice, okay? Just the way that it's been, right? Those of us who have special needs children, we know that we can wake up one day in a pathology or in a set of symptoms and health crisis around the tubercular and syphilitic miasm, and it was not through any intention of our own. But regardless, it's then our job to work with somebody to get us out of that, okay? So we don't wake up there one day, we don't get hit by something and find ourselves in the serious end of this, which is the tubercular and syphilitic. Similarly, there can be multiple miasms that are active in a patient at the same time. So you can have a disease progression that is both psychotic and tubercular, and they're flipping between the two. And so it's my job to lock those miasms down, because as soon as we lock them down, we head back in the other direction, which is in psora, which is where I want my patients to live. Okay, so why do I want you to live in psora? When you're in psora, you've got a responsive vital force. You have a responsive immune system. You're not running on that adrenal energy that we talked about before. You're not reaching for things, and your body's not utilizing things that it doesn't have access to. So you're not reaching for caffeine and green smoothies to keep you upright, because your biochemistry is balanced when you're in psora. And so any ailment that you get self-resolves very quickly, oftentimes without even needing a homeopathic medicine, because your body's vital force, which is its innate ability to heal itself, kicks in. So it's a very reactive place because it's a very responsive place. Whereas when we get to psychosis, things start to slow down. So let's talk about this specifically in terms of energy. Patients who come to me with fatigue, I don't know what's different, Nicole. I just can't seem to get out of the bed in the morning. I'm reaching for more caffeine. I'm just feeling sluggish. This is when we're starting to move into psychosis. A lot of the time that sluggishness comes with sluggishness in the mind. I'm just not myself. I don't have that emotional resilience I had. I'm either having more anguish and anxiety, or I'm experiencing more depression. So there's an imbalance happening within the mentals. And then I'm also starting to get those symptoms show up in an organ. So that sluggishness transpires into, I'm not passing stool 3 times a day like I was a few months ago. I'm starting to get a little bit of dark circles underneath my eyes, which is liver and kidney chi. So the organs are starting to start packing it in and say, hang on, we're not coping here. We need you to do some work. And the work that is often needs to be done is not just homeopathic medicine. That's the quickest route. But it's food as medicine. I'm going to teach you how to do that in the second half of this webinar, because what slows us down is the things that we reach for. Okay, so the reaching for the quick fix, such as the sugar, the refined carbohydrates. It's just easy to just put pasta with some pesto sauce and throw a piece of chicken into the pan. And before I know it, I've had more carbohydrates this week than what I've had greens, which means I'm now relying on dead food to keep me alive and upright and functional, and my brain clear, instead of living raw, vibrant food, which is what our body thrives on. Our body and our mitochondria responds really well to living, breathing plant food. And so this sluggishness then becomes accumulative, and this is where things start to stack. From psychosis, it then moves into tubercular. And the reason it does this is because we sit there for a while and things get stuck. And then the mind, through willpower, and then also the body through the vital force, goes out and says, come on, we're going to do this. We're going to reach. And it reaches at this point tubercular into that nervous adrenal exhaustion that I was talking about a few slides back. So tubercular is a very nervous place to be. The mentals there are one of anguish and debilitation, depression, and anxious thoughts, not being able to cope with everyday things, because it's almost like that rubber band is snapped. The adrenals can't carry the load, and the nervous system is starting to crash at this point. So tubercular stuff is very, very coming undone in the mentals and unraveling. And then, of course, we have great nervous stability. So we have diarrhea. A lot of IBS symptoms sit here in the tubercular miasm. More clogging of the liver and the gallbladder. We start to get thickening of the arteries at this point, because the detox pathways, the oxygenation of the tissues and the cells, everything is starting to be compromising. And so these things start to stack until finally we sit there for long enough that the body becomes completely exhausted, and we start to fall into the syphilitic miasm, which is where things start to deteriorate. This is where nervous system ailments such as MS, this is where autoimmune diseases such as lupus, things that really get quite serious quite quickly, mono, glandular fever, all of this kind of thing. It's when things really, the bottom falls out, the body can't cope anymore, and things start to spiral out of control and deteriorate. So a lot of my patients come to me at the tipping of the tubercular and syphilitic, because at this point they're reaching for help. They're reaching for help oftentimes from pharmaceuticals. They'll take the pharmaceuticals, which then puts more load on the body, more load on the liver and the digestive system to process and utilize, which then creates more organ compromise and failure. And before you know it, they're in hot water and the water's rising in the syphilitic miasm. And that's normally when I get the SOS phone call, which is, got a really serious diagnosis. I don't know how I got here. I may have a timeline. A lot of my patients come to me with very serious timelines. And my job is to lock down their syphilitic miasm so that that deterioration reduces. And then I've got to get them back through food as medicine. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. And we've got to get them off everything at this point. And it's quite interesting, the mindset around detox, the mindset around natural medicine, homeopathic medicine, naturopathic medicine. It's very much oh, well, I don't want to go and see her because she's going to make me give up everything I love. And I can't tell you how many patients every year say that to me. Well, you know what, I'm happy to take your remedies, but I'm not going to give up my coffee, and I'm not going to give up my dairy, and I'm not going to give up my gluten. I'm not going to give up my sugar. And I just want to talk to that specifically for a minute. The reason that good practitioners ask you to do that is because we're trying to lessen the load on the biochemistry and tip the balance to get you back into a place where your body's active, the vital force is responsive, and the body can heal itself. Because we don't heal the body, okay? Even the nutrients and the supplements, you know, people come to me and they say, look, I just can't continue with this naturopath because I'm spending $400 a month on vitamins and then nothing's working. Nothing's working because the miasmatic picture is so compromised and you're in a place of deterioration. At that point, we've got to take things out, just like we're taking out the foods, because the load on the body to utilize, absorb, and actually have some benefit from these things is so low. And this is why people give up on naturopathic medicine, because they say, I'm spending all of this money and I've been going for months and nothing's changing, because the load on the body didn't change. You went to the naturopath because you were tired, because you had low energy, and then you've asked your body to utilize all these nutrients every day, and it can't, because it doesn't have the integrity in those organs and those body systems to do the work, because we don't have the detox pathways that are open, so we're not utilizing in and out biochemically in the body, and just as equally these miasms are still active. So the first thing that I do is to lock down these miasms, and then we start using food as medicine. And at that point, it's not difficult to get a patient well, because it's simple foods, it's simple methodology, it's simple philosophy. We take them off all the things that got them sick, okay? And then when you're back in Sora, you can reintroduce all of those things and have the lovely balanced diet and the Chardonnay that you really yearn for, and 3 coffees a day instead of 1. You can do all of those things and even have creamy sauces and pasta and red meat. And why? Because your body has re-earned, recalibrated, re-identified what it knows what to do with those things and how to manage them effectively. Whereas when you're having those things and you're already in psychosis, tubercular, and moving into syphilitic, the body says error message, I can't deal with anymore. So this is where burnout syndrome is very, very real. This is where a lot of women and men in the Western world live. We live with these active miasms. We do our best to detox. We think we're doing the right thing with food and diet. We try to exercise. We try to perspire and sweat. We try to eat good foods and stay hydrated. We try to get some rest. A lot of us even reach to meditation and yoga. We think we're doing the right thing, but those fundamental building blocks, which we call in homeopathy obstacles to cure, are not removed. And that active miasm and the diet that is continuing to create that tip of the balance miasmatically is the obstacle to cure. So you can buy all the organic food, you can have the $5,000 fluoride filter, you can go to the gym 7 days a week, you can be doing all these things, and you're still in burnout syndrome because you're just treating symptoms. Now, is it valuable lifestyle stuff? Is it good things to spend your time and your energy and your money on? Absolutely. But we have to go to the causation. Burnout syndrome is a result of inactive detoxification pathways, active miasms, and not having the space and time in your life to heal, and then being realistic about the time it's going to take for you to earn your health. Use that word very specifically. You earn your health. It's not given, okay? You have to be realistic about the time that it's going to take to undo all of that stuff. Now, at this point, you're ready to turn the webinar off and you're like, this is just all bad news. I don't want to listen to this. I don't want to do the work. I'm sick of it. And you know what? I'm just going to live on caffeine for the rest of my life. And a lot of my patients do that. And I completely empathize, and I know why. And then they come to me in 6, 12, 18 months time with a very serious diagnosis, with a very serious time, clock running out, because they didn't listen to the warning signs. So at this point, I want to just take a moment and have you ask yourself, Do you have symptoms of burnout syndrome? Are you emotionally snapping at either anger and irritability, or are you actually crashing emotionally and you're just really weepy all the time? You're not able to manage your emotions. Disproportionate responses, high highs and low lows, changeable moodiness and attitude. That's a symptom of the tubercular miasm, which you remember is the third one. Okay. Are you having sluggish bowels? Are you having poor sleep? Are you waking up several times in the night? These are all signs and symptoms of toxicity in the body, and also adrenal overload, which is what creates this burnout syndrome. So when I talk about creating the space and time to heal, I'm not saying we go and buy a plane ticket to Bali or Hawaii and go and sit on a beach for a month, because it's not realistic, it's not sustainable. And when the minute you step back into your life, you'll create exactly the same results, because those same patterns are still established in your life. So what I mean by creating space and time to heal, and I spend a lot of time with my patients talking about this, is it's bigger than self-love, it's bigger than self-care, it's actually more about commitment. It's about, these are the things that I'm going to prioritize in my life, and this needs to be a major priority for the first 8 weeks, and then it can become a more of a balanced priority in with the priorities of the other parts of my life and the other parts of family life, or my life with my spouse and my career and everything else I'm trying to achieve. And we actually build this out so that my patients know when they finish on the phone with me, they know exactly what they're working on week to week, so that they are going to have a successful result. Because we do not tackle this beast of burnout syndrome all at once. You didn't arrive there in one day. You didn't even arrive there oftentimes in 1 year. So I think about that, that joke, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Okay. And it's the same when it comes to correcting the energy as a result, and that fatigue in your life, because you didn't wake up there one day. It's not going to be fixed in a month. And it's often something that can take even up to 18 months for you to get back into Sora, not because of the remedies, not because of your food choices, but because your body realistically needs that much time to redistribute those energies and awaken those areas of your body that have not been active. When we live on caffeine, sugar, refined carbohydrates, the body loses the ability to remember how to utilize nutrients from our food to create fuel and to create natural, organic, thriving, replenishing, healthy energy. And so it's like women who have been on the pill for a very long time, and they come to me and they say, I'm trying to conceive, and for some reason it's just not working for me. I don't know why. I've been trying for 8 months and I'm exasperated, but all the tests come back clear. Well, there's a detoxification aspect, there's active miasms, but more than that, it's that the pill has been an overlay of biochemical function and hormonal function in your body that the body's forgotten how to naturally do it. So it's the same thing with energy. We're reaching for all of these short, quick time fixes with Band-Aids, and we've done that for so long that the body forgets what it needs to do organically. Same thing happens with women who've been on the pill for a long time. They don't remember how to ovulate. They don't remember how to have these hormonal changes. So it takes time, and we have to be realistic about that time that it takes for the body to remember that, to be activated in that, because the miasms are shut down, and then things really start to move. So we have to simplify. Now I'm going to get into the hows. First half of the webinar was all about the whys. This is the hows. We're going to simplify. I want you to think about your body as a computer. Anything it doesn't know, it's going to have an error message, and it's going to get stored somewhere, and it's going to create issues. Okay. So what are the things that the body knows what to do with? It knows what to do with water. It knows what to do with sugars. It knows what to do with carbohydrates. It knows what to do with lipids and fats. It knows what to do with proteins. So proteins, carbs, sugars, fats, not artificial versions of those, such as aspartame and refined carbohydrates, okay? Or genetically modified hormone-laden proteins, or nitrate-filled proteins like processed cold meat. So we have to simplify everything down to its rawest form, when the body is so overloaded, and if you're tired, the body is overloaded, okay? And go back to my second slide, which is why? Because it can't detoxify. The only way to activate those things again, and I want to just create reference again, if you haven't listened to my detoxification webinar, please go and do that. I give you a whole plethora of lists of things to do to start activating these detox pathways in your body and how to get this gunk out. But the easiest way is to not bring them in the first place. And so when you think about it, there's so much in our water, there's so much in our food, there's so much in our air, there's toxins all around us. So therefore the food that we choose has to be simple. So break this down and get rid of all of the additives. And what I mean by additives is anything that is not those things, okay? So colors, flavorings, any kind of emulsifiers or thickeners, okay? Additional ingredients that you don't understand the name of or that you think is unnecessarily, it doesn't need to be there. Well, the body is also going to say, it doesn't need to be here. I don't want it to be in here, okay? And so we have to simplify everything down so the body can stop seeing everything as an error message, because when it sees it as an error message, it stores it. Where does it store it? As fat. If you are overweight, you are toxic. You are not fat, you are toxic, okay? And all of those toxins have to come out, and then organically through this process of biochemical cleanup, you will lose weight. You will feel fantastic. You will have clean skin. Your hair will start to grow back again. You will start going to the toilet. You will not have hot flushes. All of these signs and symptoms of the body going, too much toxicity here. I need you to simplify down. So go to simple meals, plant-based food, okay? And when we go to plant-based food, when we go to simple proteins, when we go to simple carbohydrates, low glycemic release carbohydrates, it works, okay? It really, really works, and it works fast. And why does it work fast? Because the body knows what to do with these things. And that's when it gets really exciting, because you heal fast, okay? Just gonna go and let a few more people into this webinar, because they're all waiting in the room. If I can get there. I wonder if I can get there. I don't know if I can. Okay, let's see if I can let those people in who are waiting in that room. I was carried away. Okay, hopefully I've been able to add everybody. Okay, let's go back to where we were. Okay, so simplify, simplify, simplify. And as a result of that, your biochemistry will begin to change, and then your energy automatically lifts, because you're not asking as much of it every single day. So I talk a lot about mono meals. I talk a lot about water fasting. I talk a lot about plant-based diet. And why? Because for 17 years, I've seen it work. And it's because the science is there. The body is a computer. And when we take things away, the body can heal. So we've got to look at what are the obstacles, and we've got to work through the layers. Now, I want to talk about a concept of suppression. Now, suppression is whenever we push anything back down into the body instead of working with the body to activate and release out, okay? So suppression is holding things in, and then instead we actually want things to be moving in and out. We need an energetic exchange. This is what the mitochondria does. We eat plant-based, alkaline, nutrient-rich food, goes into our cells, into the mitochondria, and as a result, our cells bless us with energy to do more, to think clearer, to be able to go on runs, to be able to have the emotional resilience to deal with difficult teenagers, okay? The cleaner that we eat, the cleaner that we get in the working with the body as a computer system, the more that we work through these layers and eliminate suppression. So one of the big suppression layers that I have to work with in my clinic is pharmaceutical drugs that suppress organ function. Now, if you're listening to this, chances are that you're pretty woken, okay? And you are pretty aware that every time that you take a pharmaceutical medicine, it has a load on the liver and the gallbladder and the gut. Because it needs to be processed, utilized, and because it's synthetic, the body doesn't understand a lot of times what it needs to do. Even artificial thyroid hormones, follicle stimulating hormones through IVF, all of these things that are required sometimes to achieve correction in the short term or achieve a result in the short term will have long-term biochemical effects that because of this suppression that must and will come up in your health and need to be cleaned out by a practitioner. So think about the layers that are relative to your health. So if you are a person who's suffered with headaches or migraines, you've been on a lot of Imigran, or you've taken a lot of ibuprofen, you've needed a lot of Tylenol, you've needed these things, those things have suppressed the function of your body's ability to not only work with pain and all those synaptic pathways in the brain, but they're also going to have had a load on the liver. So there is going to be a level of suppression, even if you experience those symptoms and that illness years ago when you took all of those ibuprofens, 5 years ago. It's still going to have a result on your liver today, which is why you're tired. Okay, because your liver's not where it needs to be. And it's not always fatty liver disease. It's just that the organs are getting tired. And I mentioned before that I'm almost 40. And I was starting to really feel these things were catching up with me. Okay, we start reaching that age, everything starts to slow down. It's not that it really slows down because that's what we were meant to do, or because it happens organically. It's not actually that at all. It's more that we slow down because there are so many layers of these suppressions. So I want you to think about the suppressions that you've had. Have you had drug loads? Or have you had life events or milestones? People who experience post-traumatic stress disorder, people who have been on depression medication, people who have had chronic fatigue, mono, people who are experiencing Lyme disease and didn't know that they had Lyme disease and all the co-infections and all of that. People who have had car accidents, people who have had traumatic births, people who have had difficult life circumstances, separations, divorce. All of these things take its toll on our body. We don't leave unscathed, unfortunately. And so these become the layers that we have to start looking at. Now, a lot of people, when they look at the mirror in the morning and they see the dark bags under their eyes and they look at themselves in the mirror and they've got every single line and crease that shows the journey they've been through, they see it on the outside. But I often say to my patients, if you could see what your body had on the inside as a result of the food choices and the abuse that we put our body through that we don't realize that we do, or that we don't have a choice to put ourselves through it. I mean, those first few years with young children for women on the back of pregnancy and feeding and all of this stuff, your body goes through a lot. And I encourage a lot of my patients to think about this as a concept and say, right, I'm going to put a sabbatical in. Once my kids get to school age, or, once this season of our life is over, I'm actually going to put myself as a priority for 3 months and I'm going to do some cleanup work so it doesn't come and hit me later as pathology. And what that looks like with the miasmatic chart is they're starting to feel we're falling into that second miasm because they're not responding. The energy is not where it used to be, the mental clarity, the emotional resilience, all those things, because the body speaks. The body speaks, not just not in words, it speaks to us in symptoms, right? So they start sinking down into this second miasm where this psychotic, illness starts to bubble and brew. And then before you know it, there's pathology often alongside it. Okay, so we've got to look at these things and say, yeah, okay, I totally get why, but I don't want to be here. And if I do the work now in the second miasm and I get the help and I clean up my diet and food is medicine, I do all of these really good things, later on, it's not going to hit me and I'm going to have a better next 10 years. So it's always better to do the work preventively. Prevention is always better than cure. So the detox pathways has to be an everyday thing, because we have to be working on the past stuff. Those layers of suppression, the poor food choices, the late nights, all those things that start stacking with our health. The detox pathways have to be an everyday thing. So find a way to sweat, commit to hydration, Activate the vital force with nutrient-rich plant-based food and repeat. Okay, so this is what I say to my patients. Detox pathway: sweat, hydrate, activate, and repeat. So the sweat is about opening that detox pathway. The hydration is about hydrating the skin, activating the lymphatic system, and in turn being able to then activate and use the bowel, which is our second major detox pathway. Again, listen to that webinar if you haven't checked it out yet. And activate, what I mean by activate is activate the vital force, activate the mitochondria and all of those cells. We have trillions of cells in our body, and it's not until that mitochondria is activated. Now, what activates mitochondria is green plant-based food. So if you're part of my private community on Facebook, you will have seen that I did a post either a week or two ago on chlorophyll, and why it's one of the only supplements I use in my clinic. I'm not a big advocate for supplements. First of all, they're expensive. Second of all, it's very hard to find affordable, sustainable supplements that are organic. It's much better to use food as medicine and to get the obstacles of cure out of the way, which is a few slides ago, which is all of the miasmatic work and activate the detox pathway. So I'm not a big advocate for things that you can't achieve on your own at home that are low cost, because to be honest with you, when you're talking about getting a family well, because that's what it takes, okay? We have to have healthy kids. That's what we want for our kids. We want our kids to be thriving. If we're not thriving, they can't thrive. So oftentimes I work with families as a family unit, and it can get very expensive very fast, even just with putting the whole family onto a probiotic supplement. Who can afford $40 per month per child? It's unsustainable. And the problem is a lot of these fad diets, a lot of these naturopaths who say, right, we're going to put you on this really incredible detox and you've got to take this powder, and it's basically a detox in a box, right? You've seen them, you've heard of them, perhaps you've even tried them. And they're unsustainable because they're expensive. They ask your body to do too much in a small, unrealistic time frame. And it's small, gradual changes over a long period of time that will prevent this in the future. So prevention is always better than cure. Even if you're coming to a practitioner with a diagnosis, you work on that diagnosis, you correct that diagnosis by implementing things, changes, and lifestyle in your life that is also going to clean up your past and prevent more of this happening in the future. So I'm not a fan of detox in a box. I'm not a fan of protein powders. I'm not a fan of these quick fix Band-Aid type arrangements, because what really creates wellness over time, and most importantly, prevention of illness, okay, they're two separate things. Prevention of illness is get in there, get that miasmatic picture clear, and clean up these detox pathways with these four things: sweat, hydrate, activate, and repeat. Wellness is how you achieve that in a 24-hour period that makes you balanced, which makes you happy, which makes your body utilize the nutrients that you're giving it in an effective way so that you're not going to have pathology in the future. So these are two goals, and none of them can be achieved in a 1 week period or a 10-day period. We are far too complex. Gratefully, we were created with enormous amounts of complexity. And I think that choosing a practitioner that respects and understands the complexity is essential, because any person that promises you, or any product that promises you a faster way to do this, is a sham. Because I promise you, you earn your health every single day by what you do, how you utilize your time, through your food choices, and through these detox pathways. So then we get into food as medicine. This is that activate part, okay? Activating the mitochondria. So it responds best to plant food and to nutrient-rich food. So this is where I use the chlorophyll. Now, why do I like chlorophyll? It's 100% alkaline. It's green, okay? Which means it's full of oxygen, okay? And when our cells are oxygenated, then things start to replenish. We start creating greater blood cells, red blood cells. We also then have more bandwidth for the white blood cells, which are the ones that go and clean up the nasties, to be created and maintained as well. When we have a mitochondria that's active, when we have nutrients, living food inside our body, and therefore living nutrients, our body starts to heal because it cleans up damaged cells. And this is what detox is. If you are tired and you have low energy, it's because you're toxic, and toxicity equals damaged cells. So it may be that your cells have really funny shapes because you don't drink enough water. They're not plump and round and vibrant and zingy, okay? Because you're not drinking enough water. Or maybe the water that you're drinking is not the best that it could be. It's not living, it's not activated with energy, okay? So the same with people who eat refined carbohydrates or high carbohydrate diets, foods, so grains, plants, and vegetables that have glyphosate toxicity. If you don't know about glyphosate, listen to my detox webinar. All of it, that info is in there. But if you have pesticides and chemicals in your environment, in your food, it's going to impact how healthy your cells are, and your cells will not go up and do the mop up and the cleanup and correct and get rid of and eliminate and excrete waste of damaged cells. Because when you feel well, it's because your cells are healthy. When you have clean skin and vibrant skin and clear eyes, when you sleep well and you wake up refreshed, it's not because you took a fantastic sleeping supplement and you woke up the next morning like ready to go. It's because your cells are healthy. Your cells are well. So we've got to go back to biology, and we've actually got to start introducing those things. So moving more towards an alkaline diet, plant-based, chlorophyll, raw food diet, okay, mono meals where you're actually just having one nutrient. Now this was my food today, and I purposely kept it out. So it's been a watermelon day for me today. So I went and bought myself from Natural Grocers, which is the organic grocery store here in the States, a watermelon, organic watermelon about that big. And that's been my meal today. And I just sliced it up. And as I've been in and out of patients, I'm just kind of nibbling on it. I had one espresso this morning. I've had another one here because I'm going through till late tonight. And I've drunk about 3 liters of water. So those mono meals, which is the idea that you choose one plant food and you would just do that for a day or maybe even 2 or 3 days. I'll often do that 3 or 4 days a week. I'll alternate that with water fasting. I'll alternate that with intermittent fasting. And why? Because I'm simplifying the code that I'm putting into my computer, because the more that I simplify the code, the more the computer's going to say, hey, we've got memory, we've got energy, we've got time, because you're not bogging me down with this big rich protein and carbohydrate diet, food or meal. And I don't have to spend the next 2 hours sifting through, that's an error code, and that glyphosate on that potato was not a good idea. And you know what, there's all kinds of trans fats instead of cold pressed oils. So I don't know what to do with that. So that's going to go into gallbladder, and you know what, there's a sugar thing here and the pancreas gets blown out. I need that I want those nutrients to turn instantly into energy for me through activating my mitochondria. So I'm not going to have a diet that's full of complexity, that's full of carbohydrates, that's full of really heavy proteins. I'm going to go to those simple messages. So it's not to say that I don't have those things, but it's all about ratio. And if you are low in energy and you're listening to this webinar because you're starting to feel sick, or you know that if you don't get on hold of this soon, that you will start getting sick, this is when we pivot really fast, okay? And grains and proteins are for later when I'm well, okay? And we start using food as medicine now. We go to mono meals, we go to intermittent fasting, we go to water fasting. Don't do any of those things without a well-qualified and well-experienced practitioner, because they'll be able to look at your signs and symptoms and where you are miasmatically and say, you know what, we are not doing kale, and we're not doing celery, and we are not doing peaches because we need these high nutrient foods. We're just going to do nothing but, you know, bell peppers and beetroot, and we're going to be doing grapes and cherries because that's what you need, because you've got toxicity in your blood. I mean, we are well trained with this stuff to make sure that your efforts are going to yield results, and that's what you want. Okay, so it's not that you give up food, it's that you use food as medicine. And that's a really interesting mind shift. I don't look at that plate of watermelon and go, oh, I'm so deprived and I'm going to be hungry and I hate this and I wish my body would just work for me and I'm so fed up having to live like this. Is it hard? Yes. Does it require discipline? Yes. But what's my why? I want to thrive. Because when I thrive, my kids thrive. Okay. I want to be here for a very, very long time. And I want to enjoy my time here. So I don't be dragging myself out of bed. Okay. I don't want to be struggling to concentrate and feel like I'm losing my memory because I can't remember where my keys are. These are little signs and symptoms that show up every day because there's too much going on biochemically. So when I eat like this, when I drink like this, when I don't get into all those complex things, the computer starts to work more efficiently, which means that I then have abundant energy, not just to over deliver to my patients and have plenty of patience and enjoy my children and all of those wonderful things that enrich my life, but I also have more energy in my body for repair. So eating this way helps me clean up the mess of all of the pathology or my miasmatic picture, or perhaps I've had a lot of refined carbohydrates in my life, or maybe I ate a lot of glyphosates and I didn't know, or maybe I had an allergy or a food intolerance that I didn't know about, and so I've really slammed my gut with that. I mean, these are everyday situations with my patients. So the more that I simplify my foods, I use food as medicine, the more that energy can be distributed to fixing up the damage that's in the gut, replenishing the microbiome and correcting the microvilli in the gut and then restoring them so I can absorb the nutrients in my food. I can also go and have energy for cleaning up damaged cells and excrete them through the skin, through perspiration and sweat, through the lymphatic system. Eliminate them through the bowel. Okay, so this is where we switch gears, and it's not about deprivation, about being miserable. It's about doing the work your body's asking you to. If you're tired, your body's giving you signs and signals to say, please put me as important. Please get some reprioritization going here because I'm trying to serve you and I'm trying to show up every single day and keep us upright and keep us focused and not losing our temper and being irritable all the time. And you know what? It doesn't have the building blocks to do that. So raw food, plant-based diet, water fasting, liver and gallbladder detox. Okay, and there's very specific ways to do that and when with the miasmatics. So it's really important. But if you want to just get started, just start eliminating all of the grains in your life, all of the proteins in your life that are difficult and hard for the body to digest, and introduce lessen the load for the computer. So don't eat as often. Get into an intermittent fasting routine, or simplify to mono meals and a raw food diet, because it's so easy for your body to digest and utilize those things as energy, and you will feel amazing. Now, you'll need to eat frequently because it's activating and using that energy straight away, and you're going to have all this great mental clarity, and your skin and your eyes are going to clear up and you'll feel and look amazing. But you will need to eat frequently, and this is why I graze on watermelon. I graze and I have a salad, or I'll have a whole big bowl of snow peas or something like that, because I can just graze on those things and just eat according to hunger, knowing that my body's going to tell me, hey, you know what, I'm running low, I need you to get some more. Because you know what, the body is intelligent, it's smart, and more than anything, the body has a built-in ability through the vital force to heal itself. Okay, and now is the time, because it's always the time to put your health first, to actually get doing this stuff, because your body can heal itself. It will heal itself. You just have to give it the right environment and the right opportunity. So get started. Don't make yourself last priority. It's so essential, particularly if you are the center of the home and you're the center in the ecosystem. From you creates the love and the support and the infrastructure, and therefore the care and the opportunity for everybody around you. I see so many women who come to me with a diagnosis, and it's with a lot of anguish, and it's a lot of panic, and it's a lot of fear, and it's a lot of hard work in a really short period of time, which really does cost a lot of their relationships, but it has to be done. Please, if you're listening to this webinar and anything has resonated, just start taking action, okay? Start doing the one small step every single day, and get into a routine and a rhythm where you have a life that supports your body, okay? There's that great quote, I want to build a life that I don't need a vacation from. I love that. My take on that in my clinic, and what I've done for 17 years, is build a life that your body can sustain, okay? So through lifestyle, through what you put on your plate, so that your body doesn't have to have an illness to get your attention. Okay. Every time you put something in your mouth, it's an opportunity to either aid the healing and the body's ability to heal itself or take it away. And in this world of fast and instant gratification, we want food that tastes good. We want that pizza and that ice cream and that glass of wine because on some level we feel like we deserve it. I challenge you to flip that and say, what I deserve is to feel well while I'm enjoying my children. What my children deserve is to have a mum that is balanced emotionally and physically, has the energy to go and get through the day without snapping, because her body has the building blocks to keep her upright, to serve her family and serve herself. There's a big paradigm shift that I believe has to happen among women, where we place ourselves not as most important, but as equally important as all of the nurturing that we do. And that comes down to what you put in your mouth and what you eliminate from your life. So put healthy boundaries in your relationships. Anyone who's taking too much from you, put a boundary in place. Start a meditation practice, start a exercise routine, start something that you can do every single day. And don't start these things on a Monday. Every single day you have an opportunity to do a reset, and you should be nurturing yourself while nurturing others. You should be healing yourself while healing others. You should be creating a future for yourself at the same time as for others. And you do that by how you spend your time. It's the most important currency that we have, is our time. And so I challenge you to look at, how are you spending your time? How are you committing to your time? And how important are you making your time in relation to the life that you want and the longevity that you want in your life? I want to live forever. I want to live to see my kids enjoy their kids. And I know that I'm not going to be there unless I earn it. And I earn it every single day, because you don't just get good health. It's not a game of roulette. It's not luck. We earn it through what we do and what we don't do, and the choices that we choose to step into or not. If I can help you in any way, or if you have any questions, or you don't know where to get started, or you'd like more resources or anything like that, here are my contact details. Thank you for being here today. I really hope this has been valuable. If it's given you one thing to work on, then it was absolutely a pleasure to give that to you. And please get started. Please share this with your friends and family. Now more than ever, health should be the most important thing that we spend our time, energy, and resources on. And every single one of us, all around the world, should be making our health our most important and our biggest and highest priority. So thank you for listening. Love and light to all of you. And I hope that this has been valuable, and I'll see you next time.